Good morning, everybody. Hi, and welcome. I'm Cheryl Texera, and my mission is to level the playing field for entrepreneurs like you by teaching you project management skills in the framework of Scrum, an agile project management framework, so you can create a sustainable productivity system and manage projects like IT shops all over the world, and finally implement all those amazing ideas so you can achieve your goals. So let's get started. Today we are going to talk about a Scrum concept called driving the spike. And what that concept is, in a nutshell, is you you actually look at something that you need to build. Maybe it's a lead magnet or something like that. And you just basically drive a spike all the way through all the pieces that you need to build. Now, you might have some things that you would love to have as your ultimate goal, but maybe you don't have time to build all of that stuff. So what this does is it releases you from that perfectionism. And the idea is that you build at least part of it. And so in the online entrepreneur world, we want to build the part of it that actually we actually need, all the must-haves. If you've been working with me for a while, you know how we prioritize in Scrum. We prioritize by must-have, should have, could have, and won't have at this time. So when you drive the spike, you're going to be driving the spike on all the must-haves. You're going to build the parts of it that matter so that you can get the product out there. And once you get the product out there, you can actually start getting feedback from people, right? And so that is what we're going to really dive into this morning. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see. I built a little, this is kind of a spike for me. So I want you to kind of look at this like this is a very plain Jane type of PowerPoint that I created. Actually, I created in Canva. If you aren't familiar with Canva presentations, they're pretty darn cool. So I created it in Canva, and and it works very much like doing a PowerPoint. So, quick tip of the day, you could use that, and it works very well. But you can see in this drawing that we have here, we've created. We're creating a spike, right? So you have your idea and your knowledge and all your ability and understanding, and you're going to just drive that spike through the marketing, through the technical stack, through all the social media, all the different things you need to do to dial into that urgent need of your customers so that you can get your product out there and start helping people right away. If your message is good and your content is good, the delivery may not be as important. And yes, we all want our stuff to look professional and perfect and all that. But if you're a DIYer right now, or if you have a very small team and you're doing a lot of stuff yourself, you just may not have the time to do that. So rather than taking 4 months or 6 months to build something, you can do it quickly, or much quicker, and you can get your products out there and start getting more information out there to your people, more value to your people quicker, and you can start getting the feedback. So why a spike? When we're driving a spike, it's intended to drive all the way through the feature. So you can build out the bare minimum, right? So you can make a sale, you can onboard a client, you can deliver your product. So if you think about your funnel, if you think about that funnel that you are trying to build out, if you're working on a funnel, Russell Brunson says only build one funnel, right? One funnel until it makes $1 million. So I love that concept because it doesn't have a time frame. It doesn't say only build one funnel a year. It says build it until it makes $1 million. Well, you can imagine what a fine-tuned machine your funnel would be if by the time it makes $1 million, right? And so I love that concept because it really helps support the concept of driving a spike. The first time you build something, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to have problems anyway. So instead of waiting till you think it's perfect, it's better to just get it out there when it's just enough so that people can get the content that they need so they can get moving. All right. So what is a spike? The spike is a happy path. It's the bare minimum that you're going to need to get the job done. So you can actually, start implementing all of the things that you're trying to do. I'm just trying to make sure I'm live here because I can't tell sometimes. Oh dear. I'm just stopping for a quick second here. Okay, there I am. I see myself now. Okay, so anyway, so you're going to build the happy path, right? And you're going to, hi. You're going to build the happy path. You're going to build that bare minimum that you need to get the job done. So I'm going to give you an example here in just a few minutes. So in your business, you will have many spikes. You're going to have, if you signed up for my file management course, my new little course that I have going, you might be driving the spike on your file management. The file management system that I gave you is your base, right? That's what you start with, and then you're going to modify it to make it work for you. So essentially, you're driving the spike, right? And just so you know, you can get that at the scrumboss.com/FMS for file management system. If you want to grab that, it's completely free right now. And I really think it's a great foundation for your business. And I'm all about building a great foundation for your business so that you can actually, your business won't topple over, right? It's going to be solid. So it can take small hits and, not being perfect and all those things, right? It can take it because your foundation is solid. And that's what I want you to really focus on, is making sure your foundation is solid, because, having the best social media and having the best Instagram is not going to do you any good if the back end of your business is not running well. And how do we get there? By driving spikes and then creating improvements, fixing bugs, making it smoother and smoother and smoother. Okay, so you might be driving many spikes in your business. File management, your funnel. The funnel could take a long time, because what I've discovered is I've been in business now, like going on 1.5 years now, almost 18 months. I've been doing this business, and my spike started with just a couple of things, right? I had a quick start guide. I had sort of a boot camp. It's evolved a lot different. And then I created my back-end program as I got clients and responded to their needs and what they needed. Now that I'm moving along, I see more what people need. I see the foundational pieces that are missing. My funnel has really, really changed, and yours might too. It still has the basic principles that I've had before. It still has my boot camp and my lead magnet, my quick start guide. But now I have new lead magnets that I think are better and more valuable for people. And I have more of the framework of my whole entire offer framed out. So it just takes a lot of time. And if you're only working part-time, I want you to give yourself grace so that you can give yourself that time to build it out. And that's one of the reasons why, you look at market value of, what you might be offering. If you were like at an iPhone 10, right? You know what I'm talking about, an iPhone 10. Remember, the iPhone didn't start out as an iPhone 10. It started out as an iPhone 1. It was very slim, didn't have a lot of stuff on it. Basically could make calls, could text, that kind of thing. Didn't even have a camera. So now the iPhone 10 is something very, very different than what it was back when it was an iPhone 1. And that's what's going to happen with your business too. It's going to evolve as you respond to the needs of your clients. And so driving the spike is a perfect way for you to get your content out there and start getting feedback so you can shape it without having that place where you're like, okay, this is perfect. And now you start getting all this feedback and you're like, it's a failure, right? You might think it's a failure because you already, thought it was as perfect as it could be. And so you sort of help alleviate some of that disappointment as people come in and give you feedback. Feedback is so important. It's not criticism. Even if somebody's mad, it's not criticism. It's helping you shape your business into what it should be when it grows up, right? And it might be somewhere along the path of growing up right now, maybe, however old it is. But you want to just make sure that you're really focused on sticking to your foundation, because the foundation is going to be what keeps your business solid and growing. Okay, so other spikes you might have is your boot camp itself. The first time I did a boot camp, I did it all in writing and right in the Facebook feed, because I don't know, I wasn't going to go live. I wasn't ready to do that. and so the boot camp is one that is a spike in itself. And so as you iterate through and you do more and more boot camps, you're going to refine it, you're going to make it better and all that stuff. So why wait till it's perfect, right? Just do it. Just do it. My first boot camp was in the comments. The next time I started doing it live, created a workbook, it got a little better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And now my boot camp is changing again, where I still teach those basic principles, but I'm teaching more of the foundation. And if you haven't signed up for my boot camp yet, you can do so at thescrumboss.com/5-day-bootcamp, or you can just look for bootcamp. That's the part of that funnel for the file management system. And either one will get you registered for the boot camp, because the boot camp is going to not only help you learn how to manage your desk, but it's going to help you to make sure that you include time in your office hours for projects. And in that project window, we are going to use a sample project so I can show you some basics of how to create a project, create some basic documentation so that you know what you're doing. And if you have to go back to it, you can look back at that documentation and know what that project was. So when you go into continuous improvement, you know exactly where you were and what you were doing. And so I'm going to show you those things. I'm going to actually build those things for you so that you have them as examples. And we're going to actually implement the file management system as part of our projects. So if you haven't had time to implement your file management system, this will be the time to do it, right? You'll just, by the time the week is over, it starts on March 22nd, and by the time the week is over, you will have your file management system ready. You'll have an example project and some templates that you can use for future projects, and you'll have your whole file management system set up for a project. Okay, so that's another one. E-courses, going live, managing projects, content creation cycle, your lead magnet itself. I'm going to get into the lead magnet itself because that is a whole entire spike in itself. Okay, so how do you drive a spike? You have an idea or a pain point you need to address, right? And then you begin by outlining that overall solution. So it depends on the size of it, what it is. It might be something simple. It might be something more complex. So depending on the size of that is going to affect how long it takes you to sort of, map it out in your mind so that you can, so you're not, one of the things that I find myself doing, if I don't do a little plan up front, I tend to have to do a lot of rework. And if you just kind of go through it, maybe whiteboard it a few times, draw yourself a picture, all that kind of stuff, it really can prevent rework in the future, because, you know, the more design type stuff you do up front, the faster you are at implementing, right? The faster you are implementing. I've told a story before about a guy who worked for me who actually would take forever writing up his design note for whatever code he was working on. And he would take so long, he would frustrate all the other developers. But the funny part about it was his code always tested out more perfect than everybody else's. He had fewer bugs. He had all of the proper error trapping and all the proper things that he needed to have in there, because he mapped it all out for himself first and took all the brain work out of just assembling the code at the end. So that's so it really is a tried and true thing in the IT world. The more planning we do up front, the smoother the development process goes and the smoother implementation goes. Okay, so you're going to build at least part of it. You're going to only build the things that you absolutely, absolutely need, and then you're going to launch it. And while you're launching it, or after you launch it, as people are, you know, consuming this new piece of content or this new thing or whatever's happening, you're going to start fixing all the bugs. Like you're just going to have bugs in that basic spike, right? And you're just going to fix them. Maybe the website didn't, you know, go over well, or the lead magnet didn't deliver properly, the email didn't trigger, or whatever happened that, you know, you missed when you were testing it before. You're going to go ahead and fix all those bugs. By the time you fix all those bugs and you get that one spike running smoothly, then you're ready to go on to the next stage. You've driven your spike, it's done. And so you can see how you're going to have a collection of all kinds of little spikes that you've done, right? That you're going to put together to maybe create your entire funnel, right? Okay, so the next slide, I'm going to just show you some visuals here. So if you look at something like, if you're driving a spike on your funnel, then you're going to see, like, you're going to have a lead magnet that's going to go to the most people. You're going to have maybe a little e-course or something that's your self-liquidating offer, or just a freebie, whatever, you know, a tripwire, whatever it's going to be. And then you're going to have your core offer, and maybe one-on-ones and professional consulting if you're a coach, right? And so if not, maybe you're going to have other things. You're going to upsell them to other courses that are maybe more expensive or something like that, right? So anyway, so you can see how just this alone, you're going to have a lot of spikes that you're going to have to drive through. If you haven't started any of this, or if you're building a brand new funnel, maybe your old funnel, you want to get, you know, start fresh and do something fresh. You're going to have spikes in every one of these pieces. Okay, so we're going to look at just the lead magnet here. What goes into driving a spike for a lead magnet? So in the front end part of your funnel is a lead magnet, right? You're going to create that lead magnet. This is your first spike. You're going to create a lead magnet. You're going to create an opt-in page, create a Facebook group, create a welcome email sequence, right? And that spike is going to start attracting those people. And so hopefully you can build all those. But just creating the lead magnet alone is going to be a spike within itself. And so you're gonna, once you build that spike, you know, you're gonna deliver that content. You're gonna start building to relationships. You're gonna get to practice, you know, anything that you're doing, and you can get feedback. And you might even make sales, and you can create an improvement cycle. So a lot of people might call this a beta test. I don't call it a beta test. It's not a beta test. It's, you know, it's the real deal, and it's what you're going to use for the time being until you go back through and start doing continuous improvement. Now, if you're on a cycle, for example, like I am, where I do a boot camp and then I have some in-between period, you know, that becomes basically a cyclical pattern that I'm following, where I bring people in and then I run a boot camp, right? And so you're going to kind of come up with your pattern on what actually happens. And I can tell you that when you start getting a cyclical pattern, that is absolutely 100% focused on your wheelhouse, that it simplifies your business and it's going to make things a lot easier. Okay, and then driving the spike will be a lot easier because you're not focused on all those other amazing ideas you have, which are amazing, but you're putting that off for another time later down the road in your business. Isn't that nice? You're going to have, tons of projects that you can do all through the life of your business because you have all these great ideas. You can do them all. You just can't do them all at once. So unless you're filthy rich and you can, just pay people to do it for you. Okay, so driving the spike on your lead magnet, now that I'd put a big 2 on there because that's really like a secondary spike, right? It's like a mini spike. You're going to actually have to create the copy. You're going to create the design of that quick start guide. You're going to put images and find images in there. You're going to build the layout and the presentation of that quick start guide. If that's your lead magnet, I just use that as an example. I think it's a great lead magnet for anybody who has a Facebook group because it helps them get started and get some basic information so that when they come in, like right before this live, and they're sitting here, they have that quick start guide so they can know the terminology or whatever that you're using, kind of understand the concepts. So you can see how you have another little mini spike in this quick start guide. Okay, so how would you sell your quick start guide? That's the next piece, and that might be another funnel, right? Is you're going to create sales copy, an opt-in page, something like that. You're going to create some sort of design, like wireframe out that sales page. You're going to need images, and then you need to build that page. So there's a whole nother part of that that spike that you're going to have, and it's another mini spike because you can take. Why do I call it a spike? Because you can take that one piece and isolate it and say, okay, I'm going to run this through a continuous improvement. This time, I'm going to focus 100% on making my opt-in page amazing. And maybe the next time, maybe the time before, you went through your quick start guide and you iterated through it and did some improvements and made it better based on the feedback you had, but that was all you had time for in that cycle. So this cycle, you're going to focus on your sales copy and your opt-in page and all that, right? Okay, and then once you are done with the spike, you can then move into continuous improvement. So what is continuous improvement? You're going to assess the results of how those things not only performed, but how you like them. If you want to improve the design, if you want to do some of the should haves, the could haves, and maybe the won't haves, maybe you'll have time at some point. You're just going to iterate through on a cycle, and you're going to assess the results. You're going to identify the gaps, any remaining bugs, make improvements, all that stuff. You're going to repeat that spike and repair and improve to add those features. And you only do what you have time to do. And then you iterate through repeatedly to keep improving and keep improving and keep improving. That's why the spike, you guys, is so important, because the spike actually creates a stable foundation for the rest of the stuff you're going to do. And then you're just going to, just start improving it and adding the little pieces, maybe add a feature, fix all the bugs, make it more and more stable every single time as you add your little pieces to it. But the foundation is already there and you have it running. So it's going to help you, keep moving forward in a faster manner because you're not building from scratch every single time. Okay, and you can see the benefits of this. You can see the benefits of it because, I've been driving a spike on my whole entire funnel for 1.5 years, but I'm making an income. So, if I waited all this time until it was perfect, one, how would I know it was perfect? Because it's not a perfect for me. It's perfect for my people, right? And if I don't get feedback from them, if I don't get it out there for them to consume, for you to consume, how would I know if it's a perfect fit for you or not? I wouldn't. And so I want to make my things a perfect fit. So I like to throw stuff out there early and get it out there and start getting feedback right away. And that's what I think that you can do, because it releases you from perfectionism. It releases you from that. Give me a fire or something emoji if you are happy to be released from perfectionism. Okay. Um, so so the next, let me see what's on the next slide. Okay, so I drew a little picture for you, or I created a picture for you. So the continuous improvement process is really a great process and makes it easy for you to just keep going forward all the time. So you've driven your spike, you can see, and now you're going to launch that and fix all the bugs, and then you go into analysis, you make improvements, you add features, and now you're just in a cycle. You're going to just keep going through that cycle over and over and over again as you improve everything, right? So after the spike is complete, you're going to move into continuous improvement. Another case I make for having decent documentation, because here's the problem that I see is one of the pain points that I have that I absolutely hate, that I'm fixing now, is when I build my email automation, I have no idea what's in those emails, 6 months later, right? And so then I have to go into like I use ActiveCampaign right now, and I have to go in and I have to open every one of those emails in the automation and to see what the content is. And that's a pain, because if any of you have any type of mailing system, right, a provider, it's slow. Now, those email automations are kind of slow navigating from one thing to the next. So what I do is I paste that email into a Word document or a Google Docs sheet, and then I have them all in one place so I can look at continuity, right? And so that's one of the things I'm really working on is building, putting it all in Word or something so I can see it all like one email to the next and how it flows, so that I can start really looking at continuity, making sure my messaging is right, and then keep improving, right? So that is one example of why you want to have some documentation for your work. And that's where the file management system project comes in, because it's just, if you have that little bit of documentation, it's easy for you to go there and get the basic outline of what you're doing before you go in and start making improvements. And, it just kind of gets your head back into it of what's going on. Okay, so one last thing on this image is after you do the analysis, and remember, things are going to age, right? So you might have an e-course you built 5 years ago, right, that's still running, and you're going through this process. You're going to analyze and determine if it's something you want to retire. This is a great solution for content that you create for social media. Instead of just leaving everything behind, you put it on a cycle of continuous improvement. So you evaluate every post, you look how it's doing, you determine if you're going to retire that post or repost it. If you're going to repost it, then you determine if you're going to make some improvements to it or do, something like that based on the data, based on how it's performing. Then you can start making tweaks, and you start getting into that micro analytics that's going to really make the difference in your whole business, right? When you start getting down to that nitty-gritty detail of how it's affecting just one person, how it's working for one person, and then keep fine-tuning. Okay, so now you can see how in my one funnel that is one big spike, I have many little spikes. I have the front end of my funnel. I have my offer. I have my program. And then I have a lead magnet in the front end of my funnel, and a sales page, and even the email marketing, right, that I didn't even put there. And all that piece. So, but you can see and you can get the idea here that there's a lot of little spikes within your big spike. So now that leads to if you break your work down into smaller components that are logical components, it's easy for you to build things. You focus on one small component at a time and build that thing out, drive in the spike, and then put it on its own continuous improvement process. Okay. And the other thing is, you're never going to be done. You're always going to have things that are in continuous improvement. So the project, when you create a project, the project is driving that spike. And then you go into continuous improvement to keep building it out. Now that still is part of that project, right? But you can call the spike part of your project basically done, and then you're going to add features and things like that. So that's where prioritizing comes in. Must have, should have, could have, won't have at this time. That is going to save you, so you're not doing the things that are could haves, that are nice to haves, that are fancy, something like that. And you get that stuff that meets the urgent need out there right now, because those people are waiting for you, and they don't want to wait until you make it super fancy. They want it now. They have the pain point now. Okay, so get your stuff out there. Don't make them wait. All right, so get organized. So I just wanted to take one more minute so I could make sure that you know that I have this new lead magnet out there. It's not even a lead magnet. It's like a mini course, and it's pretty powerful. It's going to help you get your whole entire file management system set up and ready to go, so that you'll be ready for the boot camp, which is exciting because we're going to run that little project as part of it. So you can see how managing your desk is more than just managing your desk. You're managing projects as well. And when you group work into projects, it's easy for you to manage. If you think about your to-do list, if you didn't group things into projects, you might have 30, 40 things on your list. But if you group things into project, you might actually have just 6 things or something on your list, right? You have your day-to-day work, that kind of stuff. And then maybe you have like a pain point. You're going to focus on this particular sprint. You're going to fix a pain point, right? Like I did this sprint was I put all my emails into a Word document so that I can review them in a cohesive way. So that was one of the continuous improvement things I'm doing. And then you work on a project. And that project, is probably going to take 25% of your time. Your marketing is going to take 25% of your time. And then your day-to-day work, your operations, coaching, all that stuff is going to probably take another 25% of your time. And when I say marketing, I mean content creation as well. Content creation and marketing, it's all, kind of built in together. Without content, it's hard to do a lot of marketing. So this file structure is really built for entrepreneurs, and it's based on all the different IT shops that I've worked in. Not that many, but like the best ones that I worked at, like actually there were 2 that were really good. One was one that I worked in, and the file management system was created for us. And then I created one for my IT shop, and it really made a huge difference in how things work and how people access the information. It stopped all the version control problems that we were having, where some developer was working off the wrong version of a document and didn't do the coding correctly because they did it on an old document. They built it on an old document. It'll also give you a home for everything, so that you know exactly where to put stuff, and you know exactly where to retrieve those items, so you never spend more than just a minute or 2 going and grabbing that file that you need to finish a task, right? I don't know how many times I've heard like, oh, I've spent, an hour looking for some stupid file I needed for a 10-minute task. Well, that is what this file management made easy is going to stop. It's going to help you build it, and it's going to free you from that old rickety system that you've been using, that you're probably hating, because you get a pass. You're going to just archive the old file, and then you'll only pull in stuff when you need it. and then you'll build the proper file structure for that thing that you bring in. Otherwise, you're going to leave it in the archive because a lot of that stuff may be stuff you're not even using, you don't care about or anything like that. And we don't want to spend all of our time going back through old files and fixing that system. So get the Scrum Boss, the scrumboss.com/FMS. You can get it. It's free right now. And I think it's going to really change the way you run your business and the way you think about your business. The way you think about your business, not from the weeds, but from the standpoint of a manager and of top management and what's best for your company. Okay, so file management made easy. Scrumboss, thescrumboss.com/FMS. And then join my bootcamp because my bootcamp is going to actually implement that file management system. Not that it's hard. You'll see the file management system is really super easy, and it has it's just a really simple thing. It's really simple to implement. But what I'm going to do is create these project management documents and the project management folder structure for you so that you can get an example, and you'll have an example for the rest of your business time of how you would create documentation that's going to help you in the long run. And in Scrum, we don't do documentation unless it's absolutely necessary, right? Unless it's necessary. And so you're not always going to have to create massive documentation. But what I want you to think about is, if I were to look back at this in 6 months, what information would I need to know? What do I need to know so that I can see where we were? Because I can't tell you how many times as an IT person, and especially in my application development days, I would get, and have an emergency of some sort of a job that I supported, or a screen I supported, or something like that, right? And I would have to go to our documentation so I understood how it worked. And before I changed code, I would go back to that documentation and understand why they designed it the way they did and why they did the things they did, so that I don't wreck the spirit of that particular job or that screen or whatever. I don't wreck that, right? I make sure I stay in line with that when I make my code changes so that the intent is still there. And that's why the documentation is so important. So you could skip the writing part of it and just create some sort of a cool workflow that's got notes in it or something like that. Whatever it is that works for you is what you want to do. But I'm going to give you some basics so that you have those basics, and then you'll have templates for a project charter. You'll have templates for a project management or a project plan. You'll have your folder structure. You'll even have in the file management system, you even have a policy and procedure document. And so that's really the final phase of it all, is once you feel like you've got your file management system where you want it, then you can formalize it by creating a policy and procedure so that you obey your own rules. So that you obey your own rules, right? Because how many times do you set something up and you don't obey your rules, right? That's why we get into this file management problem, because we don't obey our own rules, or we didn't have clear rules to begin with. So my file management system is going to help you create strict rules so that you know exactly where everything is. It'll really solve this problem for you, and you will never look back, I promise you. And the bootcamp's going to help you implement it with a very simple project, implementing the file management system, so you can see how projects can be run in your business. And as you grow and scale and you start having a team, those documents will be used as communication tools. So it's really important that you come up with some way, even if you don't use my templates, some way to document what it is you want, so that when you give it out to people who are going to do the work for you, then they know what they're being asked, right? They know what they're being asked to do. Okay. All right. So I think that's it. So I'm going to stop sharing. All right. And I'm back. Okay. So I hope that this has helped you a lot, you guys. I hope you start understanding how driving a spike can make all the difference for you. It can help you start making money faster because you're getting your work out there before it's perfect. And it can help you fine tune everything because, there's going to be people who will stick with you from the very beginning of your business, and God bless them. Thank you so much for sticking with me since the beginning of my business. Lord knows I've had plenty of faux pas, right? But the thing is, you're going to have those faux pas anyway. So to me, it's like no time like the present. Let's just get out there, get going, get working on it, and learn from it and keep improving, getting better, because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to thank me. You're going to say, you know what? 10 years ago, Cheryl told me to drive this bike, and I did. And that changed the game for me. That did it. That did it. That released me from perfectionism. It got me, and it got me organized. It got me, to this place where I see things differently in my business. And now my business has grown into whatever you decide. Whatever you decide. If you want to be a solopreneur forever, you can be. If you want to build a team, you can be. But either way, having a good organizational structure and learning to drive that spike is going to serve you for either way. Because if you're a solopreneur, you need to be really organized to be efficient. If you're not, then you need communication tools and you need a file management system so everybody knows where everything's at. Okay? So if you missed any part of this, I urge you to go back and watch. And you can also listen to my podcast. It'll be released sometime tomorrow. You can listen to it on a podcast, and you can watch the replay. I'll be sending out the video replay in an email later on today so that you can catch it there. You don't have to go find it in Facebook and all that stuff. I'm making it convenient for you. All right, you guys. So I hope you have a great Monday, and I hope you have a great week. I will see you next week when we start the boot camp on March 22nd. So if you haven't signed up, get signed up. It's thescrumboss.com. When you go there, you'll see a link for Bootcamp. You can just click on that, get registered. All the replays will come to you via email for that, but only if you're registered. So if you can't make the new time, I'm doing it at 4 p.m. Pacific time, and the Zoom calls at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Just to see if, that would be a more convenient time for people. I don't know. I'm trying it out, trying to meet your guys' needs. So if you can make the boot camp, great. If you can't, I will be sending out the replays, but you got to register to get them. I won't be sending them out to anybody who's not registered. Okay, so be watching for the boot camp or for the workbook and for all the gifts that I give during the boot camp, because there's going to be more gifts this time than my usual. And we're going to rock this one. We're going to rock this boot camp. I'm super excited about it. All right, you guys. Okay, so have a great week, and I will see you in the comments. Bye.